Ice cream or salad? Choose. Binging Netflix or working on your business? Choose. Cigarettes and alcohol or cardio and weightlifting? Choose. These are all simple choices and obviously not mutually exclusive. So why am I bringing them up? Well, it's because we might not realize just how important they are, especially over a long period of time. If you've ever wanted to accomplish anything that's worthwhile, then you might know what it is that I'm talking about. Whether it's getting into the body shape of your life, building your dream career or business, or just living the love life that you've always wanted, there's possibly something there that you want for yourself and that hopefully are still working towards. And yet, you're constantly choosing to do stuff that's getting you further and further away from that. In this video, I'm going to help you understand why you choose crap over good stuff systematically and what you can do about that. Some of the people watching this will probably want to click off now because it's not hype or anything extremely exciting, but those are exactly the people who should keep watching this, because this can single-handedly be decisive in whether you accomplish and achieve your goals or not. Okay, sharing time. I've always had this big dream and ambition for myself, these huge goals and visions, and to accomplish them I realized early on that I have to work hard to apply myself day in and day out, to do uncomfortable things, to push the boundaries of my comfort zone and to always push the envelope of what's possible. And so I started taking action. I started reading self-development books, psychology books, marketing, business, and I kept researching and preparing because I always felt that there was this missing piece, this new bit of information that I needed to get before I could finally spring into action. But one thing became increasingly obvious to me. In life, at any given point, you either produce or you consume. And in my case, I felt like I was producing far less than I was actually consuming in those areas that were of importance to myself. And so I would feel like I was taking action because at least I was learning, that's what I was telling myself, but I wasn't making any meaningful contribution, progress towards my goals. And so my confidence would suffer, my self-esteem would take a hit, and this would reinforce this idea that there was something missing, which would then make me go seek for more missing parts, for more education, for more stuff to read and to discover. I've watched so much YouTube and read so many articles, and occasionally saw escape in Netflix and video games and social media, forever just consuming and consuming and consuming some more. But one thing that I could never figure out was why my brain would default to these instant gratification things, and how I could restore and reverse this, how I could make myself take massive action instead. And not only that, but to love taking that action, to truly like it and to stop seeing it as a bunch of chores that I would squeeze in between the fun activities. In this video, I'm going to explain you why this happens so that you can hopefully see it in yourself and reverse it no matter where you are along this downward spiral. Dopamine fasting videos have become increasingly trendy at the end of last year, and they're promoting this idea that you can rid yourself of this crave for instant gratification, things like junk food, porn, social media, video games, TV, by simply abstaining from doing any such activities for a period of time, a day or even longer. And now the internet is full of people who do this and who swear by the effectiveness of this method. Now, I'm no neuroscientist, so obviously I am a bit skeptical, but I am willing to hear them out. A quick Google search would say that dopamine is the chemical that's responsible for you wanting, desiring, seeking out, and searching. It increases your general level of arousal and your goal-directed behavior. Dopamine makes you curious about ideas and fuels your search for information. And not only that, but dopamine creates these reward-seeking loops in the sense that people will repeat pleasurable behaviors such as checking Instagram and taking drugs. We know that different activities generate different levels of dopamine in our brain, and for one reason or for other, things like TV and junk food and social media seem to generate more than others. And that's the pleasure that our brains derive from it, that is. We also know that our brains don't choose stuff objectively, but rather they choose it selectively and relatively based on what choices are available. We choose to select the path of least resistance, and that's been tested on labs times and times again, and in behavioral economics as well. We'll try to get by with the least amount of effort, and so we'll seek out dopamine-inducing pleasures in the least effortful forms of entertainment available. And so you see, it's not the same for everyone, it's very much contextual. For me, when I first gave up video games, I ended up being addicted more or less on YouTube instead. And then when I quit social media altogether, I found myself reading an obscene amount of books instead. And that in itself is fine. If your goal is to read books, then fair enough, more power to you. But for me, it was just a means to an end. It was a means to get and to take informed, educated action. The problem then becomes when the books and the reading becomes a substitute for the action taking itself. So what to do then? Is it as simple as blaming it on dopamine then? I honestly don't think so. I think that that's an oversimplification, but I do think that there might be something to it. So let's explore further. I mentioned earlier that things that are worthwhile take time, take discipline, effort, and pushing the comfort zone and so on. Now notice how all this implies some form of fight and some form of resistance. And not only that, but it suggests that there's some place to get to, some final destination, some finish line to cross before the effort itself can finally cease. Now, eventually I've come to realize that this is a losing battle because it involves a target that's constantly moving, that's one step ahead. I mean, put it this way, how many times have you wanted something, have you set out to accomplish something only to get there finally and to realize that the enjoyment itself only lasts for about 10 minutes before that thing gets substituted by a new goal, by a new target? This is what's known as the hedonic treadmill. First you want a pound, and then you want 10, and then 100, and so on. And there's nothing inherently wrong with it. This is just how we are wired neurologically. We are forever in point A, from where point B looks like the desirable place to be. But if you live your life for these fleeting moments of accomplishment, you're pretty much missing out every single moment in between. Because it's not the accomplishing of the goal in itself that's satisfying you, but rather it's having that goal and having the sense and the feeling that you're getting closer to that goal day in and day out. So as cheesy as it sounds, really, this journey is the only thing that we have. And if that's the case, if the journey is the only thing that we have, then who in their right mind would want to suffer along this journey? Who would want to see it as a series of effort and discipline and self-torture to achieve these goals? And for what? To get the car, to get the job, and to get the dream career, to enjoy it for exactly 10 minutes. Surely you'd want to make it fun, you'd want to make it enjoyable, and if not that, then at least as pain-free and sustainable in the long run as possible. And this is where I feel that the dopamine detox movement might be onto something. This idea that you have to willingly give up that which you love the most to be rewarded with that which you want the most, in the form of productivity, self-fulfillment, and contentment with the journey itself. So you'd ask then, is this a conspiracy? Is it the fault of social media? Is it the fault of the entertainment and food industries who spoil us with so much availability and choice? I don't think so, and I don't want to get political anyway, but what I do know is that if someone produces and you're consuming and you're not paying for it especially, then you are the product itself. So is social media useful? Absolutely. Is it harmful? 100%. How can it not be? All this stuff rewiring and hijacking your reward circuits. This stuff is A/B tested to keep you hooked to it. And this is something that's prevalent in marketing at large. Campaigns that exploit our fear of missing out, our shiny object syndrome, our desire to seek and to explore and to want more. Campaigns that serve us a quick fix, a new solution to an old problem, a new experience that we just can't live without. You don't need most of that stuff, and for that matter, you probably don't need any of that information either. You probably already know more than enough. And so I think that all this noise dressed up as abundance of choice is really the root cause of our indecisiveness, our fear of missing out, and our inability to commit to a job, to a career, to a path, to a partner. And I feel that dopamine is only hinting at something bigger, at this idea of this illusion of endless choice and availability that's made increasingly more transparent by the internet, for example. Now you can see how others are succeeding in completely different avenues, some in real estate, some in forex, and they're vlogging about it. Some are even teaching it, and they're making it seem like it's all within reach and all these possibilities that are all readily available before your eyes. And then you have Tinder and you have Grindr and you have all this dating that never ends, and everyone around it is doing it too, so there's that too. And so, is there anything wrong with any of that? Technically, there's nothing wrong with anything in itself. Drugs inherently are no bad either, it's just a question of context. I think this is a personal question to answer. Are you happy and are you content? If so, then more power to you. But if not, I think the problem is in suffering, in being aimless, in being clueless, and in being at the whim of forces that you don't even understand. So I'd say that dopamine detox is only scraping at the tip of the iceberg. What to do then? You need to take a hard look at yourself and at what you do day in, day out, and what you say you want for yourself. Because you can't say you want a beach body while you stuff your face with ice cream, and you can't say you want a dream business and career when you scroll Facebook for 5 hours in a row. You can't do the same things over again and expect different results. You need to recognize the things that are actively harming you, and then to deliberately and intentionally limit your exposure to them, to what you feed your mind with. For some people it's junk food, for other people it's Netflix and video games, and for me it's the internet. And how long for? Well, you know how some of the ex-alcoholics can't touch booze ever again in their lives. Well, that might be you, man. That might be me. You might be better off avoiding the chocolate aisle altogether. And I might be better with social media apps uninstalled from my phone for as long as I can, really. So by all means, go and start with a dopamine detox. Create that space to better assess your current situation. But do understand that in the long run, we're talking about a complete identity shift here. You want to stop acting out the things that you don't want to become and start acting out the things that you want to be instead. You want to take action and you want to love taking that action. Because how else are you going to go at work day in and day out on your business, on your body, on your social skills? If you can just watch people online go after theirs, maybe pay for a quarter or two and fool yourself that you're making progress that way. It pays off to switch over to a mindset of producing, of meaningful output, of contribution, of playing a part. You want to be able to derive your pleasure from these things and to hack this mechanism to work in your favor so that you get your dopamine hit from the things that are truly meaningful to you and the things that you want to do rather than all these forms of entertainment that are also readily available. Because too much noise and distraction can cause the wrong channels for dopamine release. So recognize that it's both not your fault and your responsibility at the same time. Because we are wired to seek, and there's no end to how much we can seek. But it's our job to find that and to sacrifice. The Stoics speak of the idea of sacrifice routinely when they give up their wealth and their belongings only to re-baseline the search and the pursuit, because they recognize that the journey in itself is that where the satisfaction comes from. So if wealthy, educated individuals can do it, then surely we can do it too. And we praise and worship sacrifice anyway. We give the NHS a clap every week for the tremendous contribution that they pay to the country. We give Medal of Honors to soldiers, and we absolutely worship the ultimate sacrifice, that of one's life to save another one. And we have all these athletes that we look up to for sacrificing their well-being and their fun times just to achieve peak performance in certain arrays. So you can see that this idea of sacrifice is quite prevalent in our society already. We just have to pay our own sacrifice for our own good, really. So I hope that this opens up your eyes to something, and I hope that this has been useful. And please do share this with someone and leave some of the comments down here. Give us a like, because this channel, like I said, is just starting out and it's really helping. That being said, I hope this has been interesting, entertaining, and I shall see you in the next video. Take care.